Welcome back to the channel. My name's Tom, and today I'm at RetroWorld Expo 2023 in Hartford, Connecticut. In case you weren't aware of what RetroWorld Expo is, it's Connecticut's largest video game and pop culture convention, focusing mostly on retro video games from the 80s and 90s. But if you're looking for newer games, they have those too. They also have lots of toys and other pop culture items, again, mostly from the 80s and 90s. And here, as you can see, they have this car made up to look like a car from Mario Kart, which is pretty cool. All right, let's head on in. This was filmed on Saturday, which was the first day of the convention. It opened at 10, and I got there about 10:15.
Play Saturday pass?
Yeah.
Thank you.
RetroWorld Expo has been around since 2015, but this is actually my first time here, even though I live about 20-30 minutes away. I'd considered going in the past, but for whatever reason I never did. But I think going forward I'm never going to miss another show because this was probably the best gaming convention I've ever been to. Alright, so now let's see what we can find. Got some money burning a hole in my pocket and I really need to take care of that. Thanks.
There's the bell. Pretty cool. And he took like the pedals out.
Right off the bat, they have this cool setup of old CRT monitors here playing some old video games. Looks like I see a Genesis there, a Nintendo, and the Super Nintendo.
Was the Blues Brothers, like you don't see that in any convention.
So here we've got some expensive games under the glass here. A few of these are graded. We've got George Foreman's KO for the NES at $250. Super Mario Kart for the SNES at $75. Some game called Amagon, which I've never heard of before, for $850. And then Blues Brothers for the NES at $1,500. And a bunch of others. Now this is a joystick either for the Atari or the Commodore 64. I'm not sure which because they were interchangeable. They had the same connector. But it's definitely from that time period, probably early to mid-80s. And as always, don't forget, if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, leave a comment, and hit that notification bell. Thanks. This is a Commodore 64 game, Hacker 2. And I don't see those too often. You don't see too many Commodore games for sale. And this was one of the few PC games I saw. I actually did end up buying this later at the show, but that's William Shatner's Tech War. Here's some more classic PC games, but these are way out of my price range. That copy of Doom is $1,000, Prince of Persia $950, Heretic $700. I would love to have those, but that's way out of my price range. But what was within my price range were these Sega Master System games. I got a Sega Master System for Christmas back in 1987, and I loved it. But over the years, it disappeared. I don't know what happened to it. We might have sold it at a tag sale or something. But I was lucky in 1997, I found one on eBay in the original box, complete, for $45. And at the time, that seemed expensive to me. Of course, nowadays, it goes for about 10 times that. But luckily, the games are still fairly reasonably priced nowadays. They're in the range of about $15 to $25, whereas as you can see, that Sega Genesis Ghostbusters goes for about $130. The Ghostbusters for the Master System goes for about $20 to $25. So much more reasonable. And here's a copy of Echo the Dolphin for the Genesis. I really wanted to buy this. It was only $12, but it's missing the manual. And for me, if I'm going to buy a game, generally speaking, I want it to be complete. Here's a Magnavox Odyssey 2 in the box from 1978. He's got 120 on it, which is actually a pretty good price, assuming it's complete and in good condition, because they seem to sell for about 100 to 200 on eBay. The prices range pretty wildly, but again, if it's complete, a 120 is a pretty good price. I thought these were pretty cool. These are pixel frames. These aren't that old. I think they said copyright 2012, but you can still buy them new on eBay and Amazon. I did end up buying this one though. This is a Sonic the Hedgehog one, which was my favorite game on the Genesis, and it's basically like a shadow box or like a diorama.
Yeah.
So I thought it was pretty cool. I got it hanging on my wall now, and it looks
Cash?
pretty nice. Here's an uncut sheet of Garbage Pail Kids second series from 1985. It's got 250 on it, which is probably not a bad price, but the condition wasn't the best. It was a little tattered.
Oh, maybe they were.
Maybe they did.
Once Sega system,
There's a bunch of great old consoles here. We got the 32X adapter for the Genesis. That is, I think he said 120 on that, or 130. That Virtual Boy there standing up was 400. Here's a Panasonic 3DO. That's 300 bucks. I've never seen one of those in person before. There's a just a Super Nintendo. He was asking 90 for that. TurboGrafx 16, another console I've never seen in person before. He had 400 on that. That Master System in the back there, I think it was 120, so that's pretty reasonably priced. And then that green Nintendo 64, I think, was 200, and the two Pokemon N64s were 300. So the prices on game consoles have gone way up over the last 20 years or so. It's got a ColecoVision up there for 200 bucks in the box. That's on the higher end of what you can get it for on eBay, but of course there's no shipping costs here. And he's got an original Xbox in the box for 100 bucks. I was actually lucky enough to find one at Goodwill in the box for I think $15. So if you look around, you can probably find those a bit cheaper. It's fairly new in comparison, like to the ColecoVision. Here's a great old real Ghostbusters Firehouse playset from the late 80s. And then next to that, we have a Panache Palace Voltron, which I've heard of but never seen in person. He's got, I think, 85 on it. I just think this is the ugliest Voltron ever. I have the 85 Matchbox one, which is what most people think of when they think of the original Voltron. And it looks so much better than that. That just looks terrible. Here's some GoBots records.
I just showed it to somebody.
And then here are some broken Transformers. They appear to be either broken or incomplete, a lot of them. And these look like Gen 1, I believe. I don't remember their names. I think one of those might have been Jazz. I forget what the red van was. But that is horrible. That Transformers GoBots thing where they, for a while, combined Transformers and GoBots, which are like arch enemies of each other. So I never got that. And that's a newer Optimus Prime. That's not Gen 1 or even Gen 2, I don't think. But lots of cool stuff here. I mean, you could easily spend the full 2 days here just going through all these boxes and buckets full of old toys. And these are G.I. Joes, of course. This vendor was selling a bunch of posters, which I'm fairly certain are homemade. I don't think they're officially licensed. They may be, but I don't think so. But they're really high quality, really glossy. He had them at 7 a piece or 2 for 10. So at 5 a piece, that's a really good deal. I'm sure you would pay more for that online, plus shipping. I really wanted to buy some of these, but the problem is I didn't want to carry them around for the whole show because they just would have gotten all wrinkled and creased and everything. So I don't know, if I had like a poster tube, that would have been probably a good solution to that. But of course, you know, who would think to bring a poster tube with them to a gaming convention?
That's fantastic.
This vendor was selling a lot of fan brew or homebrew games, and they're basically homemade games. You know, they're not made by Sega or Nintendo, but they're high enough quality that you would think they were made by them. I've never played one, but these physical copies were really nice. I mean, they looked almost identical to real original Genesis games, for example. The boxes were really high quality and they just looked amazing. He was asking about 35 to 40 a piece, which is probably just about right because these are new games, and you got to figure new games are going to cost between $40 to probably $60 nowadays anyways. And take a look at how shiny the cartridges are. They almost have like a holographic coating on them, and the original Genesis games would never have anything like that.
I know.
What's that?
If you're looking for NES games, there's no shortage of them here. They have buckets and buckets of these at this show. And most of them are pretty reasonably priced. I'm not a big fan of buying loose cartridges, though. I would really have to want the game. Because like I said, I tend to buy games that are fully boxed. And the Nintendo games in their boxes, for whatever reason, tend to go for way more than Sega Master System or even Genesis games. You almost never see NES games boxed, at least in comparison to Sega games. That's probably because the NES games were sold in cardboard boxes, whereas the Genesis and the Master System games came in those hard plastic boxes, which would last much longer, were much harder to damage. Here's some Sega Genesis games. First up, we got Ghouls and Ghosts for 35 bucks. That copy I would not pay 35 for. I do see it goes for about 30 to 35 on eBay, but that copy had stains all over it. And there's Super Thunderblade for 12, which makes sense because that's not a great game, at least not in my opinion. And here's probably the most famous game of all time, Mortal Kombat for 10 bucks. It's probably cheap because they probably made a lot of them. Same with Mortal Kombat 3, they got 15 on that. And here's some Super Famicom games, which if you don't know are basically the Japanese version of the Super Nintendo. Here's something I don't see too often, an Atari Jaguar game. This one is Kasumi Ninja. He's got 65 on it, which is just about right. It seems to sell for about 50 to 60 on eBay plus shipping, so if you take into account there's no shipping costs, and that's probably just about what it's worth. Here's some more Sega Master System games. This one's Afterburner, probably one of the most famous games I think for the system, and one of the first ones I had. He's got that at 18 bucks, which is very reasonable. Here's Gangster Town. He's got 30 on that. That actually required a light gun, and I remember we got that when I was a kid, but we didn't have the light gun, so we were never able to play it, which is kind of silly. There's Ghost House. It actually came on the Sega card rather than a cartridge. It was kind of like a flash card almost, and that he has 65 at, probably because they're rarer. There's Choplifter. I had that. He's got it for 35. Golden Axe. I never had Golden Axe on the Master System. I had it on the Genesis, so I don't know how it would play on the Master System. That one he was selling for 30 bucks. And then here's some Sega 32X games for the Genesis expansion, the 32X. And you can see there the original price was 8 bucks, and now it's 55. The prices on those have gone up a lot over the last few years. I bought a whole bunch of them back at Funko Land back in the 90s. I think I paid 3 bucks each. And I ended up getting, 7 of them or so. So So yeah, as I've said, the prices on games have gone up quite a bit in the last few years. Here's another one of my favorite Genesis games of all time, Jungle Strike. I love the whole series, Jungle Strike, Desert Strike, Urban Strike, I think. That one he's got at 25 bucks, so pretty reasonably priced, I think. And of course, Mortal Kombat 3.
I know, I couldn't think of it, but yeah. That's such a good movie.
And there's Desert Strike, the other game in that series I was talking about. I think he had that for the same price.
In interviews, like, talk about the way they just treat that kid like shit. And that's why he quit.
These TVs are pretty cool. That's a Disney Princess TV there on the left for about 200 bucks. And to the right of that, there's a Dora the Explorer one for 120. Those are from the early to mid 2000s, and they go for about that on eBay. You might be able to find it for a little bit less if you get lucky. I've actually got the Mickey Mouse one at home. There's another NES console. He's got 80 bucks on that one. It looks pretty clean. A lot of times you'll see them either faded or yellowed, and that one looks pretty good. We got a Genesis. Didn't see a price on that. I still have my original Genesis at home. I just don't have the box. That's the only thing I'm missing there. That's I think a Sega CD, which I've never had. Those tend to go for quite a bit, I think. And here's the third game in that series I was talking about, Urban Strike. And I don't know why I didn't buy this. I should have bought all three of them, but I didn't. So maybe next time. He had 25 on that. And here's another game I used to play all the time in the 90s, F-117 Night Storm. I used to rent it, I think. And I used to love it back then. I tried playing it recently on an emulator, and I couldn't get into it. But it brings back a lot of memories. And he had 15 on it, which was not a bad price, but I wanted to pay less. Hi. Can you do any better on the prices?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, cash is king. You know what
All right, yeah, I got cash. What's the best you can do on this one? You have 15.
Put me an offer.
10?
That's fair, yeah, cash.
Sounds good to me.
Appreciate it, man.
All right, there you go.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, that's a fresh bill, too.
Yeah, right out of the ATM. Up top there we have, I think, a mix of re-release toys and originals. Those mask ones there on the right I think are originals because I don't think they ever re-released those, but I think those Star Wars toys are not originals. I think those are fairly recent re-releases. So I've said it before, you got to be careful on those. If you're not experienced, you could buy one of those re-release toys and think it's an original. So just do your research before you go and buy stuff like that. So I'm not super knowledgeable on original NES games, but I've never seen them before in these black cartridges. Usually they're in the standard gray cartridge that you see all the time. And, of course I've seen the Zelda gold cartridge, but never these black ones before. They don't seem to be particularly rare or anything, though. I mean, they're only selling for 12 to 18 bucks, but yeah, I thought that was interesting.
They want to Gunstar Heroes.
So here's something I've only seen before on YouTube. These are the Go Sega Astro City games. These are the mini controllers. They've got a arcade stick and a mini console. He's got $650 for the bundle, which seems a bit high because on eBay I think you can get all those for about $450 roughly. And there's the Sega base system that I have that I bought for $45 back in 1997, and now it's $450. So it's gone up 10 times in price. It's kind of amazing. There's a TurboGrafx 16. I think it was $500 in box. There's a Sega CD in the box for I don't know if that says $425 or $475. And this is the core graphics. It's actually a modern mini version of the TurboGrafx 16 or the PC Engine, which is the same thing actually. Now this is where it gets crazy. This Atari Jaguar, the Jaguar CD and the original Jaguar, he's got $2,200 on each one, which is amazing. I just had to take a picture of it for my friend from high school who actually has an Atari Jaguar in box. I don't know what he paid for it back in the 90s, but there was no way it was anywhere near that. It was probably under 50 bucks that he paid, I would guess. So that's just crazy how much those have gone up. And there's a Sega Genesis for $250 in box. The one I'm looking for is the original Genesis, which had the Altered Beast pack-in. And I'm looking for it in really good condition. So if I can find one of those on eBay or at one of these game shows, I'm definitely going to buy it. And here's something else I've never seen before. This is a Mountain Dew edition of the original Xbox. He's got no price on it because he's not selling it, but they seem to sell for between about $250 and $700 on eBay. The price is very wildly, like most things, but they seem to average around $500. So that's pretty crazy for an Xbox, which usually goes for like $100 max.
Oh, you know what? No, I saw it in that video where you were playing Super Mega Baseball.
This is Earthworm Jim for the Genesis. He's got $100 on it. I'm not sure why that's so high, because that goes for 40 to 50 bucks or so all the time on eBay. These are Nintendo Switch games, and I don't own a Nintendo Switch. I've never played one. I'm not really into portable gaming nowadays, but these are pretty cool that they're physical editions in these like big boxes, which you just don't see too much anymore. So here's more Master System games, and this is Outrun. I think everybody's probably heard of Outrun. It's got $20 on that one.
Just a moment for you. So much. Yeah, sadly,
Altered Beast.
so far.
Now I had Altered Beast on the Genesis, never on the Master System.
Have a great one, all right?
I didn't realize that. Yeah, take part.
Here we've got Rambo and Afterburner. 15 on Afterburner. And that's one of the games I had when I was a kid. I didn't have Rambo, but that's still a pretty cool game. Now these aren't in the best condition, but they're good enough for me.
I got that. It's better on. Yeah, you want to be able to actually.
Awesome, brother.
Oh, I know now.
Nico, go through.
One sec here, you are?
This is Hang On and Safari Hunt, which I think was the pack-in if you got the Master System with the light gun. I had the Master System without the light gun, so mine came with Hang On and Astro Warrior. But this one's still pretty cool.
They're releasing the one that got made and never released it instead of a cartridge. That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's pretty wild.
Here's Choplifter, another one of my favorites from a kid, and this one's only $20. Now I had to get this one, Ghostbusters, even though it's a horrible game. It's really nostalgic to me because, I mean, it's Ghostbusters, and I did play it a lot as a kid, even though, again, in hindsight, it's not really a great game. And he had 25 on that, so that wasn't bad. And then this is Space Harrier. I actually had Space Harrier 3D because I did have the 3D glasses for my Master System, but this one it's pretty much the same game, so I decided to get that one as well.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Hi. Can you do any better on the prices?
Depends on which ones we're grabbing today.
Well, if I did, it would be these.
Okay, sounds good. Hold on one second. Let me
Let's
see.
see, we got 25, 25,
That's not exceeding. 50, 70, 80, 95 we're looking at. I can do 85 for the stack if you want it.
80?
I can do that for you.
Cash?
Yep, cash works for me.
Okay. So I was pretty happy with that purchase. I got a $15 discount, so not bad.
Awesome.
Right.
Do you want to
Now this game, Zillion, is one I knew I could not leave without buying. Zillion is actually the only Master System game ever that I completed. Completed it on an emulator with save states, sure, but I completed it and I had a lot of fun doing it.
There you go.
It's not really the type of game I would think I would like because it's really like a puzzle and action game. You have to remember a lot of the symbols to get through the doors, but for whatever reason, I love that game. Hi, can you do any better on Zillion?
There. Right here. Sorry?
Hi, can you do any better on Zillion?
What are you thinking?
20?
Meet me at 25? Pretty good shape, right?
Yeah, I could do it. What's, do you know, is that original, that Zaz?
Yeah, a lot
like
of
a
those
sticker.
cards, like they're like came from California. A lot of those have a.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's. I've seen. Master System has some crazy stuff, but I know that's the U.S. version.
Yeah,
For sure.
oh, it's got that.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, I can do 25.
All right.
It actually says Jazz Rack, not Zaz. I don't know where I came up with that. There's Knight Rider for the NES, only 10 bucks. Not sure if it's a good game or not, but it's Knight Rider, so how bad can it be, right? There's Mario Brothers Arcade Classic Series, which I think was a reissue. That was 20 bucks. Operation Wolf, only 5 bucks, but you know, I'm sure there's a ton of those, but that's a great game. When I saw these gold cartridges, I just assumed these were Zeldas, but they're actually, it says Quattro Adventure, so I guess it was 4 different games.
That I see for a Super Nintendo.
Never seen those before.
Handmade ROM packs.
Right. Like, does it make me harder? Or
Now pull up a,
you talk, I'll do it.
pull up a video about it.
These are all custom made?
Yes.
Here's some more of those homebrew or fan brew games. I think I'll have to look into those a little bit more in the future. They look really cool. One thing that was a little bit disappointing to me about this show was that there weren't many vintage computers, and this was one of the rare circumstances where they did have them. This is a Commodore 128 on the right, Commodore 64 in the middle, and then an Atari 800XL right there in front of us. And those are all great systems for, you know, good old 8-bit gaming. And I used to have some of these mini arcades. I believe I had that Pac-Man there. He's got 60 bucks on it. I think I sold it for maybe 10 bucks back in the 90s. So I wish I had held on to that. And he had some computer games as well. Nothing too exciting though. I've actually got that one there. I think that's Ultra Pinball. I have that. I think I found it at a Goodwill for like $2 or something crazy like that. And Shadowcaster, I do have that. I have it in the original box. Got it back in the 90s sometime. Probably paid $5 for it or so. this Zaxxon mini arcade is pretty cool. I've never seen one before. They seem to go for about like 100 to 200 on eBay, depending on the condition.
That's 150.
Oh, okay. Does it work?
Yep. You got the batteries in the back though, just because the batteries will fall out.
Oh, okay. Yep.
How you doing? Good.
This is Outrun for the Master System. I really wanted to buy it, but that one had a major water stain on the back cover, so that's a no-go for me. And it was missing a manual, so decided to pass on that.
Bring it over, baby.
This vendor has a Super Nintendo for $300 in the box. That seems to be maybe a little bit high. I'm seeing it a lot cheaper on eBay, like in the 150 to 250 range. There's a NES, and you can see the original KB sticker on it, so that's pretty cool.
Let's go look for another one. We'll find another one. If not a order.
Now this vendor is hiding all the good stuff up top there. We got a Sega Master System in box for $250, and the original Genesis that I was looking for with the Altered Beast in it for $350, which is just about what I see it going for online. And of course, more Master System games. Alright, well that's the end of part 1 of 2 of the RetroWorld Expo 2023 in Hartford, Connecticut. I hope you liked the video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, leave a comment, subscribe to my channel, and hit that notification bell. I'll have part 2 probably coming up in the next week or two. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.